what most shocked me when I went to Ghana was seeing so much blue-eyed, blonde Jesus and seeing so many colonial flags hanging. So in Africa, we may face a lot of enemies, but our biggest enemy is our own mental slavery that we still sit in. We're still colonized in the mind that we believe whiteness is the only existence for us to succeed. So we have to be like them, we have to go like them, we have to own like them. No.
I'm a king. Yes,
Welcome to the Africa Narrative Podcast. This is Femi Shueu from Africa Web TV, and today we're just going to freestyle. We are at the Sphinx Mix Festival in Belgium, and you can hear the music in the background, and we are just going to talk to people about different topics. As usual, our focus is going to be on Africa. And I have my first guest here,
And my name is Ali,
originally from
Somalia.
Ali is from Somalia. How long have you been living in Europe?
And I've been living in Europe 12 years now.
What was the first thing that surprised you when you came to Belgium?
So many things, but if I would sum it up, I would say when I went into a supermarket, they had 4 different types of water. So that was
4 different types of water.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What kind of water is?
Packed water, so you have bubble water, flavor water, and you have this normal water, but 4 or 5 different types of companies that make water.
Yeah.
And for me, it was shocking because growing up in Africa, we had so much problems to fetch water while we're so much gifted with water resources. So that was a bit confusing for me and shocking.
You telling me in Somalia you are not used to people selling water?
No.
Or different water?
No, not only selling water, but the availability of water to everybody's need, even to everybody's style. They have customized water. While in Africa, we still don't have a whole systems of running water laid to every human being's house. So for me, it was shocking.
But isn't that kind of a commercial thing that you have to, water is water?
Yeah, of course, water is water, but and the inequality between how access water exists here, access and accessfully, and how in parts in Africa that we still have to figure out how to get water into the household. So that was confusing. And of course, everything is commercialized here.
Okay, you've been living in Europe now for 20 years, you said?
Yeah.
And
12 years.
Oh, 12 years, I mean. And at that time, it was 4 types of water. How many types of water do you think there are now?
A lot. It's even way worse. And they're all not healthy. Yeah.
This is the Africa Narrative Podcast, and we are going to talk a little bit about Africa and Europe. Living in Europe and also having grown up in Africa, what do you think is the biggest misconception both in Africa and here?
Yeah. The misconception from Africa here is that we believe that money grows on trees here. We believe that they have running milk. We believe because of capitalism and how it's portrayed in movies, in Hollywood, in celebrities, the media, we feel like Europe is heaven for us. So that's a huge, huge misconception because that's not the reality. And the misconception that Westerns have from Africa is that we're still primitive.
Can you define primitive?
They think that we're still living like monkeys and that we live in huts, that Africa is so poor. Of course, there's poverty in everywhere. In Africa, maybe more, but they neglect majority of what Africa has taught even to the Western civilization, like the Moors were the first ones who came to Europe and told them how to take a bath. So they weren't even bathing. So that's the misconception. They think that we are primitive, but they have taken so much knowledge and wisdom, and so they think we're stupid.
It's funny you talk about the Moors and how they taught the Europeans a lot of things. Just recently, I met one guy also who is from Curacao, but he traced his ancestry to Ethiopia. And he was saying exactly the same thing, like the whole of Europe is built by Africans.
Yeah, definitely. Europe has outsourced the brains of Africa for over 5 centuries. We had kingdoms like Timbuktu, Mali, yeah, so much. So we welcome them. You know, as Kwame Ture says, when the Westerns came to us, we had the land and they had the Bible. But now we have the Bible and they have the land.
Yeah,
Because of the
we closed our eyes to pray and we opened it and our land was gone.
voila. That's it. That's it. So yeah, we have to go back home and build home, you know. For me, that's my message for the black people, and because we come here and we start from zero. All the cleaning, the hard jobs, jobs that are not good for your health, is done by migrants and the black people. And I was once working in a magazine, and there was an Ugandan man who died in the magazine because he was working so long, so much shifts. So there's so much discrimination here. And when you come in, if you don't have the legal papers, you're treated as criminal. So there's so many things that black people don't know about coming here. And to come here itself, it's about a life and death. So is your life worth for that? I didn't come by crossing Libya, the desert, or the Mediterranean, where so many black people are dying. I came with a visa, reunion visa, family visa. So I would advise black people to keep the ancestral ways of living until our puppets, our presidents, the thieves that are robbing us, until we replace them. Until we find people like Thomas Sankara or Ibrahim Traore, which is now present, I would feel privileged to tell my African brothers, don't come to Europe because I have experienced this or I have this perspective. But I would say there will come a time we don't need to be here. And it's not only for Africans not to come here, it's also for us to go back. So we have a duty to play, and our role is to go back and not bring what we learned from the Western society, but also helping with resources, sharing resources, farming together. So that's what I would say.
You raised a lot of points there, but the one I want to focus on is the African perspective that forget about the Europeans thinking Africa is poor, but Africans themselves think we are poor. Should we, as Africans, be aiming to be like Europeans?
No, never. I don't think that how the Western society lives is not in accordance with nature. Western society believes that we have infinite resources, that we should dig the ground, we should cut all the trees, we should build all the asphalt. No. Our African ancestral way is taking what we need from the land and not what we want.
You know, part of being primitive is all our masks, all the things we used to worship. The Europeans came, told us these are primitive things, so we should not do that. They brought their own religion, we adopted it, and we forgot our own cultures and traditions.
Yeah. I believe that we are really in, especially black people in the African continent, we are under a huge spell that has disconnected us from our ancestral way of practicing, our ways of defending evil from ourselves. And they've succeeded in some way, making our traditional religious spiritual practices evil, called it voodoo or give it a bad name. And then they gave us this blue-eyed blonde Jesus who doesn't even exist in history. Jesus was born from Middle East, Palestine, and he's a brown man. But what most shocked me when I went to Ghana was seeing so much blue-eyed blonde Jesus and seeing so many colonial flags hanging. So in Africa, we may face a lot of enemies, but our biggest enemy is our own mental slavery that we still sit in. We're still colonized in the mind that we believe whiteness is the only existence for us to succeed. So we have to be like them, we have to go like them, we have to own like them. No. So I believe we all have to go back to our beautiful practices. Benin, let's even mention Haiti, how they defeated the slave owners using ancestral powers. So I believe we should practice our own gods. And because I always ask, I'm born in a Muslim family. I grew up a Muslim, but when I grew up, the question I ask mostly black people is that why does God has to choose white God and a brown God for the Arabs? Why hasn't it been a black prophet? Why hasn't it been a black God? Yeah, for the African people. Why do we have to worship other people's image of God while we have our own image of God? So I think it's time to decolonize religion.
And decolonize our minds. Before Islam, before Christianity, what were Africans? Who were Africans praying to?
We were praying to our own gods. We had our own entities. We had our own ancestral spiritual practices. It's very different from every tradition. Black history and spirituality goes back way to the Kemetic period also. Egypt was black, the Nubian civilization, the Timbuktu. But then white people came and said the pyramids were built by aliens. So our spirituality could heal people. You could do superpowers. You could use your chi energy. And there's a lot of black people now who practice it, you know, the Yoruba people, the Igbos, even in Ghana.
But my problem now is you say they practice it, but they are no longer practicing it.
It's sad.
I mean, you have a child, there is a whole ceremony that goes with it, and now they don't do it.
Yeah, I got my angst, so, I mean, I understand because black people has been going through...
Are we traumatized as a race?
Not only traumatized, but we're also hypnotized.
Hypnotized?
Yeah. So we need to heal from the...
People watching us have hypnotized us.
And necessarily, I wouldn't say them, but white people did that, yeah. White people, for the last 400 and 500 years, going to 500 years, not only black people, but have been ravaging the whole global south. Latin America, India, the British Empire never sets. So I think there has been a period of time in a dynasty where there were different races in the world that had power, but the way white people are exerting their power is white supremacy. They want an absolute supremacy. They want us to kneel down for them. They want us to cut our dreadlocks. They want us to straighten our hair. They want us to dress like them. They want us to eat like them. So
if we don't do that, then we are primitive.
Yeah, and I think we have to wake up every day and realize, just as Tupac said, you know, we gotta change the way we eat, the way we dress, the way we talk to each other.
The best way of being brainwashed is not to even realize that you are brainwashed. So that's why a lot of people live their own religion, they follow other religion, their own ways, like what you are saying. Do you think this can ever or will ever change?
Yeah, definitely. It will. And I believe that our ancestors hasn't left us. They're walking behind the ether. And it's very easy to connect with them. And the last year, there were a lot of black people who were going back to their own ancestral practices, including me. So I had to get out also from a very Sunni conservative Muslim family to figuring out my ancestral spiritual guides.
Okay.
So there is a revolution happening, and Africa is going to be in 2030, 40 or 45% at the age of 25. And these young people are very much open to changing about the Western perspective in their own countries, at least.
You know, one of the perspectives they have is people who live in a hut or who live in a place without electricity, they are necessarily backward.
Yeah.
But what's wrong with that? If you've eaten.
There's nothing wrong. I believe that the lifestyle of Western society is against nature. So anything that lives with nature and lives the minimalistic way is seen as taboo or bad or primitive. It's their playbook. So they use this playbook, and this playbook contains how they approach us politically, how they approach us financially, how they approach us dietically also. The foods that we eat a lot now in Africa are not even our own foods. Rice, starch. These are things that the white man brought there. So the amount of brainwashing, the amount of hypnotization, and the amount of spell that black people are under, it is really huge. And the only way we can break that is if black people who know this truth unite and put their differences aside, because we black people are not also one uniform people. We have different cultures, we have different perspective about the world, we see the world in a different eye, but we should also not fight and cut each other off. We should be a big family who have differences and working out together.
Diversity is our strength.
Yes, and now we see it as our weakness, but for me, my Muslim brothers, my Christian brothers, my spiritual brothers, I love you all. But you can still practice Christianity, which is from Ethiopia. It's 2000 way back, and it's not a blue-eyed Jesus. So it's just find the truth, and I believe it will happen. It will happen because you are not having that perspective. I'm half your age. I'm not having that perspective, and I'm 110% sure the youth, the black youth that I will be guiding at the age of 15 will not be having that mentality. So I think there is a progress, but it's just starting now.
We did a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and it's about community life, how a child grows up, or how people are in Europe and how people are in Africa. Looking at both the pros and the cons, tell us which one you will prefer.
I don't have any children, so I can't answer that.
No, it's not even about children. It's sometimes about growing up. We say it takes a village to raise
a child. That's true, and I think the way a child is raised in Africa is more easier on the parents. They have more support. The community, I grew up in Africa, so I do remember having more than one mother or more than one grandmother. Even when we visit our friend's house, his mother is just like our mother.
Even the mother, that mother will beat you, and that's normal.
If you do anything wrong on the streets, it's not your family you should worry about, but even friends of your family, the mother. So we have this beautiful.
But if that happens in Europe, that person, you're going to report them to the police.
Yes, they have a different understanding. I do believe there is some positivity in it that also we Africans should realize, which is the child is never punished. I believe that. It's not only because Westerns or white people do that, but I believe beating up a child or whipping a child will only create trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder, or they will have inferior complexity, or they will have no confidence in themselves. So I believe that if I raise children in Africa, I would also do the small things I learned here, which is don't beat a child. Not because I'm going to go to jail, but I want my kid not to go to jail when he grows up. I do believe that, and I do believe that children shouldn't be pushed every morning to a organization where they're kept with a lot of other children. I believe a child should grow in the house with his mother and father, if possible, or with one parent until some age. Yeah.
Thank you very much for joining us for this episode of the African Narrative Podcast. The podcast continues. Like I said, it's a free session. Everybody can just join us. And some people are waiting in the background who are going to join us also. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I'm a king, yes, I'm a king. I think I'm a king.